Okay, Daniel.
Yeah, no, I'm in favor of negotiations. Don't make any mistake.
How do you know all these things? You, in other words,
get
I mean,
paid to know
gee
these
whiz,
things.
he comes out with bam, bam, yes.
I love
So
it.
what you're telling us is we can calm down because we're well equipped enough to stomp down
No,
anyone.
I don't think that's true at all.
You don't think
I
we should
Well,
calm
that's
down?
what the
No,
listeners
no.
think now.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we should calm down, but I do think we have to realize, in fact, my whole point was we have to realize the risk, you know, and the logic of nuclear war always plays out, I think, to mutual assured
The
destruction.
problem is we can calm down, but we'd still be dead. Calm but dead.
Calm but dead. But yeah, the
Kinda work
likelihood that
together.
Iran may be able at some point in the fairly near future, within the next few years, be able to destroy New York or Washington, D.C. But they will not have they won't
The
be able to do
range.
it by launching a weapon from their own country.
Right.
They'd have to do it some other means. But you know, there's so many means of delivering nuclear weapons. You put it on a freighter, and you ship goods to New York. Now you just got rid of New York. So delivery is not as complex as it sounds, shall we say. But Iran will not develop the ability within our lifetimes to be able to destroy the United States. Do us a lot of damage, but not destroy it.
Well, you
But
say
we don't
that.
even have to rely on nuclear weapons to destroy Iran. We can do it with weapons of mass destruction that aren't nuclear.
But you know, you say that, and if they take out New York, for example,
Yeah.
listen to that terminology, take out New York. But anyway, if if they do that, what we understand now is that the environment is going to transmit, and it's going to spread all over the country.
Oh, you got to remember, there's been over 200 nuclear weapons exploded in the atmosphere, the biggest of which was 50 megatons by the Soviets. So one more nuclear weapon isn't going to have that nuclear winter effect. That requires an explosion of somewhere around 1,000 nuclear weapons within a very short period of time.
Okay.
That was the threat with the U.S. and Soviet Union.
Tricia, I listened to what's going on in Cairo, and I listened to what's going on in Gaza, and I wonder, are we already fighting a kind of surrogate war already? Iran is just the next step in a set of surrogate wars that we're already involved in?
Right. I know that's.
I hope not.
I hope not too. That we don't want to get involved in another when they're talking about airstrikes and when does it go from an airstrike into full out war and for people here, I don't think anyone here wants to see that.
Yeah, I think I see families who have young people in the National Guard
Yes.
and watch those families struggle with the consequences of all of this.
And it's frightening. And I, you know what I keep asking myself, at what point do we feel obligated to become involved?
Right.
I mean,
Well,
that,
we're the U.S. We're involved no matter what, aren't
Well,
we?
see,
mean,
that's that
like,
arrogant big brother mentality.
Right.
I
Back
think
in
the
World
bigger
War II.
question is at what point does Israel drag us into an armed conflict, whether we like it or not?
Well, Israel has the capacity, if threatened, to wipe out.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's be very clear. And I was thinking about this today. You think about this for days
Right.
before we come on, and I was thinking about the Judaic-Christian tradition and that whole concept of
Yeah, it's something we love to abuse. I mean, it's a nice concept, but we don't live it.
no, but let's go back to the whole notion of coming up out of Egypt and that God has given this land to the Israelites. Okay, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Joshua.
Yeah.
Okay, and so historically, people understand that there is a basis for Israel being right there. And historically, there's always been conflict because when they were given that land, they ran the people out. And they killed the people. There were huge massacres during that time. So, they realize that they're in that position in the middle of hostile countries.
You evoke your religiosity as deeply embedded in all of this conversation. It seems so deeply embedded as to make it impossible to be rational about it.
There's rational again. Well, I'm giving you a perspective. And the perspective that I'm giving you is a perspective that you will hear most often in the Judaic-Christian tradition. Okay? And that is the perspective. And so these people carved out a space.
Well, how do you think the Palestinians feel about that?
Well, their land was stolen from them because their God is not Yahweh. Their God is Allah, and Allah wasn't involved in that negotiation. Unless you understand, let's keep it real, unless you understand that God by any other name is God. So at any rate, you know the story. We all grew up with the
Sure.
story. And so it's a historically conflicted area, and it's going to be like that because it's the nature of it. And all of these people are cousins. You do know this. They're third, fourth, fifth generation cousins because you've got Esau and his. They're all related, but
And
they took different directions.
And they all raise their kids to believe in this stuff, and we don't. You know,
The real tragedy of the
We
Israel-Palestinian is that both sides are fighting for the right of self-determination,
Yes.
and they claim the same piece of property.
Mhm.
That makes it very intransient and very difficult to come to some sort of accommodation.
Well, political scientists can sort this out, can't they?
Well,
sorts
you gotta
everything
remember,
else out.
when we sort things out, we tend to come to conclusions like the likelihood of war is very high. So we're not politicians, at least I'm not. But
Yeah, you just predict things and
right,
then walk away from them.
exactly, and it's very difficult to see how we're not going to have another blow up, another.
Actually, I think we're going
Conflict.
to have them forever in that area.
right.
Because
be
that's
right.
the nature of the situation. And I don't think that we'll ever have a situation there. And then you talk about negotiating and trust where people will sit down and because there is no acceptable solution. Everybody can't have the same piece of land.
Why?
Well, you work that out. I can't see it. I can't see it. Everyone can't have the same piece of land, but I think that conflict is going to go on until the end of time.
But
My concern
It's a long
is,
time.
yes,
I
it
hope
is.
it's a long time.
My concern is that some of these other scenarios don't become the catalyst for something beyond what we're doing. That 8-day war, those little conflicts and scuffles, they're going to go on indefinitely.
You know what I sometimes wonder? Whether aliens from another planet would be our best savior. Let's have some
different topic.
aliens
Oh, now
here.
you're
Let's
1950 science fiction.
Yeah.
The aliens are invading, so the Soviet Union and the United States get together.
And the aliens come and say, kill them all.
Yeah.
God gave us this land.
Well, you got enough?